Hey everybody, how's it going? So I want to walk through some API design principles today. One of them is going to be hypermedia as the engine of application state. And if you're familiar with Roy Fielding, his paper that he did about REST APIs is famous. But one principle in there is this hypermedia as the application engine, as the engine of application state. I always forget that. And I want to show you just like a pretty typical API response. So I have this application running, and this is my retry rabbit project. So this returns back to me all my active bindings that I have in my RabbitMQ exchange or server. So you can just see it's just a typical response body. Nothing nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a list of all the bindings. So if we everything looks good, returns 200. This is not necessarily adhering though to RESTful constraints. And I do want to show you some things that if you go into this endpoint here, you can see that I'm simply just getting the result from my service and passing that down wrapped in a 200. So this by itself, functionally, it works because it returns data. But when you look at it from a couple different perspectives of, you know, proper HTTP status code handling, it's not correct. It's not a correct implementation. Also, if you look at it from a perspective of more RESTful constraints, this response body is not what you would really expect to see. Certainly not in any form of enterprise level system. Typically, if you ever worked with large scale systems, typically you're probably going to be used to seeing this along with like a links, anything that provides you, the user, about information about how to interact with the system, because that's really what REST is, right? It's stateless interaction with the system. And so if we can provide the client with that, that's where you want to be. So I'm going to go do that now, and I'm just going to walk through some things to look for and what this looks like in practicality, like if you're doing a code review or something. So what we need to do first, and this is where I kind of like to start, is we need to define a kind of like a response object. And so what I've done here is I've created a model, a response generic class called response, and it accepts data, status code, and also exception. One thing I need to do to extend this to adhere to some of the RESTful constraints is I need to introduce a property, and I'm going to call it links, and, it's going to be the name of it's going to be links. And so what we need to do is we need to make a new class, and I'm just going to do that in here to keep the code or keep me from switching windows. Let's go ahead and define a new class. We'll do public class links, and let's see if autocomplete actually fills it out for me. I was hoping it would. Okay, we'll just do href. Okay, we'll just keep it easy and just do href. So now what we can do is we can make list or links an IEnumerable of links, because we can return multiple links. So now we have data, status code, links, exceptions. We'll do list of. We'll also do an IEnumerable of exceptions. There's a couple things here that is some of this is my preference. I prefer to have data wrapped in a common type like data. I also prefer to pass the status code down with the response too. I understand it's not necessary. I just prefer to see it in the same body of the response to make it very obvious, like what, when you're just looking at it, what it is. I also like to have any kind of exceptions, not because this is really comes down to how you're how you're coming out about, like how you're coming at your code from, like what perspective, because I prefer to um, not throw exceptions and immediately return out of the controller. I prefer to have those handled by some kind of like result type. So for me, having exceptions like a potential property to store anything that's thrown along the way is what I prefer to have. But you may be different. You might like to have something else. But this is what we're gonna go with for today. So let's go and just copy this response class here, or the type, and then we're just gonna jump back to the controller. First thing we're going to want to do is we need to go to the interface. So I have a RabbitMQ service interface. We're going to need to change this. Instead of task of IEnumerable binding, we're going to need to change it to task of response IEnumerable binding. So we're just wrapping our existing type inside of this response, our generic class. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and copy this method signature here, and let's jump over to the RabbitMQ service. So we'll just go here, go to implementation. Oh, okay. Wow. Well, you got to go to it manually here. Where is it at? Get bindings. Is it active bindings I'm getting? Get active bindings. Yes. And here it is here. Okay. So I need to change this to match that response type we did here. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure that my code is all in view. Okay. All right. So once we've done that, now the next thing we have to do is change the return, because it's going to complain at us saying, hey, we don't, it's not. Whoa. What happened? Hold on. Okay. And we'll return. For now, let's just return defaults just to get rid of my errors. And what is... Oh, because I didn't... Right. Okay, that's fine. I was like, wait, why am I getting an error there? Because I changed the return type. All right. So the next thing we're going to want to do is come down into the return. So now, instead of just returning back I believe I just returned back the active defaults, a list of bindings. Now what we need to do is we can just say return and then new response. So it's going to do it for us there. IEnumerable binding. So now we can fill in our information. So data becomes bindings, which is the type that we pass into the generic class. Exceptions is going to be, we're going to give it null. And links, on the other hand, let's just populate everything. HTTP status code. Status code is equal to, okay. All right, so now let's do that, delete that. All right, so now here's what we're working with here. So now let's go ahead and populate links. So what we're going to do is we're going to say new list of links, and then we're just going to fill in some of these here. So we'll do one. The first link we're going to do is with our binding. We can get queues with active binding. So I want to create the possibility where we provide knowledge of how to get the also get the queues. So I want to say, let's see, update queue, and then get exchanges, queue service. Let's give it the, what are the links here? Queues. Okay. I believe it should be this. Let me just copy this route I have here, and let's go ahead and paste this in there. And then we're going to say this is going to become queues, and I don't believe I have one accepting the queue name. I have a patch request with that. we'll give it another one here. New. We can fill in that, I guess, actually. We'll say new links. Do that. And it's giving me error here. Oh, whoops. All right. Change that. And then let's go ahead and add another link here just for the sake of the example. What should this one be to? Let's just make it to be exchanges just for the fun of it, because I do have a route for exchanges. Okay, so now our response is something like this. So now we return that wrapped data inside of the response type. We're going to return data, any possible exceptions, and I'm actually going to change this to null. I don't want to return that. I don't want to have those null. I'm going to just return an empty list, and then I'm going to return a list of links as well as the status code. The one thing you probably have to do, because once you start messing with your return type, is that you'll have to drill down into, in my case, the data to get the same. So again, bindings.data. But that makes it very obvious. But now the other part, I think I'm calling it from another spot too. Yeah, you probably have to just make sure, ideally you do this in the beginning, but here we are. So now if we come back to our controller, we are going to get, down here. So I just tried to space this so it was like we're not focusing on too much in the video. But so now what our return type is now is a response via new role binding. And what we can do now, and this is kind of my preference here, is we're going to say, return, and then we're going to say status code. But now you can see that, okay, we know that now bindings has a status code built into that return type, and then you'll just have to cast it, but then that'll be fine. And then it's up to you if you want to return the whole data type or you just want to return your data, obviously, but we want to return the whole response type because that's what has all our RESTful properties in there. And then I'll say, like, if we go back to the service, the reason why I like doing it like that is because, let's say if I need to, I don't know, where should we have this break? I'm just going to copy or delete all those comments. Let's see if, I don't know, this really wouldn't break like anywhere. All right, let's say if active bindings, if there's no active bindings, then we're going to return not found. Or we can say forbidden, gone. We'll do not found, I guess. Okay. All right, so I like the tightness of control you get with this approach, because your service really dictates, okay, this is what I need to return, and the controller doesn't have to worry about anything, like about having to do any checks or anything. But depending on how deep you are in your service, you can get really like granular with like the, what type of status code do we need, but also like what you do with the status code, what you do with the exceptions. I just prefer this kind of approach because I like having the controller literally just be the routing. Couple things extra we're gonna have to do though is, now that we know our service is returning a possibility of not found, so 404 and then an OK, what we're gonna want to do is just annotate this. Let's see if it auto-populates it for me. Produces, and let's see if it gets the other one. There we go. Okay. A couple other things you want to do is, in my case, I'm not using any cache control. So no store is equal to true. Just some more metadata that we can send down to the client to say like, there's no caching available on this endpoint. And then now we can say, okay, this endpoint either is going to produce 200 or 404. This is the route, and okay, let's go ahead and run this. It should be good. Oh. Exception. I changed that to be exceptions. Now I gotta update it in a bunch of spots. Hold on. I forgot that I was already using this response type some places. Is equal to E. Oh boy, hold on. Let me just quick do this real fast. Hold on. I forgot that I had already used this in a previous video. No worries though. Just update that. And we should be good. Let's see. Let's go back to my controller. Okay. All right, so that's my endpoint. And if we jump over to Chrome here, let's pull this open. Let us call this active bindings. So now it looks very similar, almost identical, but now everything is wrapped in this data. And if we scroll down here, we get some of this metadata. We get some of this data too. So we get the status code. We get links. Any possible exceptions. Obviously, links in this context is not the most helpful. But if you're querying against like a database where you can like get a record and then take that record's like ID to get more details, which is like it's like if you were to like query weather, right? You can query the whole week, but then if you go like weather-Monday, that would be the type of thing that would be useful. So like if you had for example, like in your actual data type here, if you wanted to include a links property within the actual data itself, you could do that, and then you could pass information from the response into that link to populate it. So it's going to be up to you how you build links. It's going to be up to you like how you populate the data in the link, how much you want to make it available. Because you can make these, just the routes. You can make these the whole link where you can just click on it. So it's really up to you. I'm not going to build that right now, but I just want to show you like just basically how to kind of stub it out. And then if we, if for example, like I don't find any bindings, like let's go and just make this not return anything. Let's just say it is going to return stuff, but I need it to not. Let's just hack our code here. Active bindings. Oh my. No, autocomplete is very aggressive sometimes. We'll just say remove all. Oh, what does it take in there? Oh, remove all. Where? New. I'm just gonna make it an empty list. Okay. And it's not gonna have anything in there. And let's set a breakpoint and let's go ahead and restart. The only reason I'm doing this is because I just want to show you the different response types produced. All right, so let's go in here. Now we can see we hit that. Go back to Chrome, and you can see that we're getting our 404 not found. Oh, yeah, obviously because I'm still populating from bindings, but you get the idea, right? Like this would be a new. Let's just make that default. Let's run that again. Obviously this is not like the best example, but you kind of get the gist. Let's run it again without the breakpoints. There we go. So you can kind of get a feel for like what you're trying to go, drill in towards. So data, status, links, exceptions. So just kind of play around with like what design you prefer. there's a few ways to do this, but I feel like getting in the habit of just including information about your system with in your RESTful response um, is something just to be thinking about. Let me take out that code before I forget about it. Don't want that in there. So, uh, okay, here we go. But yeah, if you go over to controller, like this approach is what I prefer personally. Um, if you don't want to have the service provide down the status code, you could check like, if uh, bindings dot data any, and then return not found, right? So there's different ways to do it. You can do it that way and have the controller check in the service. You can do it the way I showed you. It's really up to you. I just like this because it's easy to apply to a lot of your endpoints, and you kind of get consistent behavior. But I like having this service as be as in control as possible. I don't like having any logic live in the controller because I feel like what tends to happen, it seems like, is that business logic always kind of creeps into the controller, and I just don't think it should be in there really. I really just think it should just be route this request here, and here's the response, and then that's it. Whatever comes in, whatever goes out, that's what happens. So anyway, that's what my preference is. But yeah, play around with like this. The hypermedia as the engine of application state and other RESTful principles. API design is kind of fun just to mess around with, see what you like, and see what works and what doesn't, and just kind of get a feel for like, hey, this is one possible approach, or like what like because like one preference thing is like what data wrapper type do you prefer? What do you ideally look for in your wrapper classes? What do you put anything extra in there? So I don't know. Let me know what you all think, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.